Since its announcement, one of the biggest questions people have had regarding Spider-Man Miles Morales is how big we can expect the scope of this game to be. Is it another full installment? Is it the sequel? Is it another DLC? What exactly is this that we can expect to be playing? And I feel that Insomniac has actually answered this pretty well, though there are a few things that are still a bit difficult to gauge. The comparison that they used is that this is something more akin to Uncharted: The Lost Legacy rather than a full additional installment. Or in other words, they will be reusing many of the assets from the first game, and we'll see improvements to them, but not complete rebuilds of them. So for example, the character models are the same, however, they will be using updated textures. The city map will be pretty much identical, just with holiday weather, and they will be using features such as ray tracing just to make this game really pop. There has been speculation regarding a Spider-Man PS4 remaster that would pretty much take the technology that we see in the Miles Morales game and apply it to that base original game. However, because this hasn't been confirmed, I don't want to speculate too much on this. I feel like that would be a pretty big secret to keep, but if that is indeed going to be part of this bundle, I'm all in, and I actually feel like it would be a bit of a mistake for some of these newer games like The Last of Us Part 2, Ghost of Tsushima, Spider-Man, these PS4 exclusives to not take advantage of the PS5 technology and give minor upgrades even to these original titles. What we can expect from Miles Morales itself, though, regardless of whether or not there's some kind of remaster bundled with it, is something that will be pretty significant in terms of scope. However, it won't be the same size as that original game. Like I mentioned earlier, they have compared it to Uncharted: The Lost Legacy, but the difficulty in comparing a game like this to The Lost Legacy is just how different Spider-Man and Uncharted are as franchises. Spider-Man is much more open world, and Uncharted is much more story-driven. And so it's kind of difficult to look at the gameplay time just because it's almost uncomparable due to the differences in these games. But what I think that we can use to measure what this game will be is we can look at the DLC pack, The City That Never Sleeps, and we can look at the base game in of itself. And I think that what we're going to be looking at is something between the two. And there is a pretty major gap between the base game and The City That Never Sleeps. However, what I think is significant is that The City That Never Sleeps, to beat it 100%, takes around 6 to 8 hours. So I feel that this game will be at least bigger than that. We're probably going to be looking at a 10-hour experience at least, and who knows how much side content they're going to throw our way. But what we can also expect, like I mentioned earlier, is some pretty interesting enhancements in regards to the graphical quality, some of the gameplay fidelity. And what I think is perhaps even more exciting than some of that is just the fact that there are going to be so many new gameplay elements brought to the table here. Miles Morales appears to use a completely different set of animations for combat and swinging. They might change up his swinging style a little bit. They could add some improvements to the web swinging, and in terms of his gadgets, he's using things such as the Venom Blast and a stealth suit, it appears from the trailer. So there's going to be a lot of new mechanics for us to play around with, and I feel that the scope of this game is going to give us a really good opportunity to do that. I feel that perhaps saying that this game will be around 50% of what the base game was might be a little bit generous. It's probably going to be closer to 40%, but again, we're looking at something that's probably going to be around 10 to 12 hours. And I don't know, it's funny because people will say that that's not big enough, and yet that's bigger than Arkham Asylum, arguably Arkham City. It'll be around the scope of Arkham City almost, because when you look at Arkham City compared to Spider-Man PS4, Spider-Man PS4 is much bigger. It has tons more content, particularly in the main story. I don't know, those Riddler trophies are quite a lot. But it is interesting to see that even these spin-off smaller titles are arguably of the scope of what used to be standard AAA superhero games. And I mean, it's going to be as big as some of those older Spider-Man games as well. It will probably be about the length and the quantity of the Spider-Man 2 game back in 2004 that people still love so much. So I don't feel that we're looking at a product that is going to feel less than what we want. I think that we're going to get a good full Miles Morales arc and installment, and we'll really get to see this character grow on his own. And I actually think that it's very strong for them to do that rather than continue to try and build this character up through Peter Parker's narrative, so that then in Spider-Man 2, when we are back with Peter Parker, they don't have to devote 6 hours of screen time to Miles to building up his story, because he's already had his own installment where we've gotten to play as him and we've gotten to really get to know this character and become far more empathetic with him. And I don't know, maybe in Spider-Man 2 we'll get to switch off between Peter Parker and Miles a little bit more. Maybe it will be more focused on Peter than even the first game was. So I'm definitely excited to see where they take this narratively. It will be interesting to see a Spider-Man who's still in high school, who's still in his younger years. This isn't something that we got to see with Peter Parker, as he's already much older. And it will also be interesting to see if they do some build-up for that second Peter Parker game with, maybe Norman Osborn, maybe Venom, and it will also be interesting to see where Peter's at. I know that there's been rumors that he won't be in the game at all, but to even just hear the dialogue to figure out why he's absent at this time, where Mary Jane is. So I'm very excited. Thanks you guys so much for watching. Please be sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, and in the comments make sure to let me know what you guys think about this upcoming Spider-Man title and how excited are you for it. And thanks again so much for watching. We'll see you guys in the next one.